I feel like when you begin to show up as your authentic self, the people who are for you are going to be the ones that stick around. But the practice of being unapologetically human is very difficult in this world. There's fear of judgment, there's fear of being too much. Like, I think for women, especially, when you do the work to show up more authentically, it kind of starts to clear the way of who should be in your life and who shouldn't be in your life.
Amount of energy that we have to expend to maintain this self that's not really real, like, it's exhausting.
It takes effort to tune out that noise and to like reset and focus back on yourself and the things that are going well and how grateful I am for the things that I do have and not don't have.
In truth, nothing on the outside can ever actually satisfy. Like, it is 100% your relationship to the world. It's an inner job entirely that is the path to inner freedom.
One day it hit me and I was like, self-love is a series of choices you make on a daily basis that leads you to the life you want to have. I'm not the smartest person in the room by far, but what I do well and it is important to me is I connect with people. So I think like the biggest thing for me was being okay with disappointing some people or not being for everybody, and being okay with saying like, I'm not for everybody, and that's okay.
Erica, thank you for joining me. Per usual, I'm not even going to warm you up. I'm just going to hit you with my first question. You used the phrase that I loved, which was leaning into the being unapologetically human. If you can speak to more to what that means to you.
All of the relationships, all of the success that I've had, whether that's been with work or with friendships or relationships or whatever it might be, have been anchored in being like completely unapologetically human, showing up as my true self, being vulnerable, being able to, I'm kind of in this phase of like allowing people to see kind of the mess behind the scenes, like not having to show up as like completely like pulled together in every aspect of your life all of the time. What I found is like when I'm allowing that to be seen or I'm being unapologetically myself, whether that's like, you know, showing like a snarky side or like respectfully disagreeing with an opinion or being vulnerable with my kids, having conversations at work that go deeper than just the work to the human connection. Every time I've done that, it has put me in a position to foster stronger relationships. It has put me in a position where I just connect better with people. I think about like the jobs that I've taken. I'm not the smartest person in the room. By far, I am, but what I do well, and it is important to me, is I connect with people at their core level. And I always use, you know, I've used this example before. I might ask about what somebody's working on at work, or I want to go deep on like a strategy that we're working on. But then I also want to know if like their kid won their basketball game that weekend, and I want to know how like they're doing as well. And that's just my approach. Leadership approach in past roles is a human first connection, because I think when people feel valued as humans, like they want to do better work, they want to be better friends, they feel seen, heard, understood. But the practice of being unapologetically human is very difficult in this type of in this world. There's your fear of judgment, there's fear of being too much. Like I think for women especially, like if you know you have a too strong of an opinion, or you don't appear to have like all your stuff together, and you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. But I think what it comes down to is allowing people to see a true side of you and not always having the front or the mask or the buttoned up approach to everything. And it's okay to be vulnerable and authentic and honest.
Are there things that you found that have kind of helped you on that journey to leaning into that more?
Yeah, I think that you have to be okay that you're not for everybody and everybody's not for you, and you have to be okay. I feel like when you begin to show up as your authentic self, the people who are for you are going to be the ones that stick around, and those that are not, it kind of easily weeds out who's not for you. And so I think like the biggest thing for me was being okay with disappointing some people or not being for everybody, and being okay with saying like I'm not for everybody, and that's okay. Whether that's like you didn't get the job, or that date didn't call you, or you lost a friendship because you were honest about something. When you do the work to show up more authentically, it kind of starts to clear the way of who should be in your life and who shouldn't be in your life.
Yeah.
And I think that the biggest lesson in that is being okay having a smaller circle. When you're growing, it tends to get smaller because people don't necessarily agree with you, or maybe what you're doing makes them think about other things, and you have to be okay with losing some things when you show up as authentically human.
Yeah. But like the flip side of it is, and I talk a lot about inner freedom, it's such an unburdening, because the amount of energy that we have to expend to maintain this self that's not really real is like it's exhausting, even though there is definitely the work to do to get more comfortable with discomfort. At the same time, you also have this like benefit of not only am I more attracting these people to me who are the real the real deal in terms of friendships or relationships or like-mindedness, but also I don't have to do that work. It's like I don't have to expend any energy to try to keep up some kind of pretense or mask or false impression with people. And that is, in my experience, profoundly unburdening.
There's definitely a sense of freedom that comes along with saying like I showed up as myself. I don't regret like what I did or what I said or being vulnerable. I have a specific example. I was on a work trip not too long ago. We're doing this icebreaker together with my team, and we did this icebreaker of just like getting to know each other better because we all live in different regions. I started talking about my kids, and I got emotional, and like I don't show up as like emotional at work ever, right? Like cuz like when you think back to, or when I my perception or what I think I'm supposed to be is a strong female leader or a strong female presence, and a strong female shouldn't cry, especially not at work, right?
Right.
And in that moment, after I had that moment, I looked at a colleague of mine and I was like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. Like, was I a complete fool? And he looked at me and he was like, absolutely not. He's like, I loved like everything that you said. That kind of set the tone for the rest of our trip because people hadn't seen that side of me. They just see like the executor. It lowered the water lines to make I think it makes you more approachable as a human being. Oh, she's human, like she was emotional about her kids. You become more relatable, more approachable. And I think that type of vulnerability and being authentic actually makes you stronger in people's eyes. And that is the mental shift that I think is starting, that is hopefully starting to happen more often.
Yeah. And I think it is. But then the flip side is I wonder how much the online, certainly like social media type of thing is like a counterforce to it. And even not to even go down the path of like demonizing that, even though I do think there are a lot of problems with it. It's interesting because I historically haven't really been that much of an active presence online. It used to be like like a complete internet hermit, and I decided to test out, what it felt like to be more present online. And I had this experience just a couple days ago where I was catching up with somebody who's a friend who knows, is kind of aware and has been seeing my activity online. And I told him, we were catching up. I said, yeah, I'm actually coming out of a pretty like tough period right now. He was surprised and he's like, "Oh, that is not what it looks like online." Right. And I thought, boy, isn't that funny? Because actually I'm not being real at all. Like this is my whole shtick. Like this is like what this is about, right? This conversation and this idea, because for me it's so much of who I am and what my mission is like to help get people on their true path to become their true self. And a lot of that is accepting the sides of themselves that are difficult to accept and to be more human and be more authentic and be more vulnerable, but at the same time to lean into your strengths and your callings. And so what's actually happening is more that, well, if I think that it's worthwhile to share something, it's because I think, oh, this might be valuable to somebody else or informative or helpful or something like that. And therefore, the only things that are going to pass that filter are not necessarily going to be whatever, like, oh, I just, had a moment where I yelled at my kid and now I feel guilty about it. And, whatever it is, like, that's not what I'm going to carve out time to put online. But by virtue of what I am, what's coming forward, it's like, oh, well, here I am inadvertently giving people the perception that maybe life is better right now than it actually was. So that was instructive to me. And it made me realize, I think, how much we extra work we have to do to like almost offset the kind of online world and the social media world.
It's exceptionally difficult to tune out the noise, as I like to say, of the social media world. Like in the comparison is the thief of joy, right? That's the saying. I think this happens often, especially as you going back to being a single mom, like watching other families do things and vacation and give their kids these experiences, and you're just, there's this sense of I'm not doing enough, or like, wow, look at how great they are, or almost a self-pity too of like that's unfair or whatever it might be. And it takes effort to tune out that noise and to like reset and focus back on yourself and the things that are going well, and how grateful I am for the things that I do have, and not, what I don't have. And so, or at least the perceived notion of what I don't have.
Yeah. And as you were saying that, I was thinking like a lot of people debate, is it like a tool or a technology isn't inherently negative or positive. It's kind of like our relationship to it. But I think the flip side to that is that there's certain ways in which we are not necessarily naturally wired. So like just being exposed to all of that, even if you are really, really making every effort, just the actual exposure to it, it's the same as the news and, being exposed to literally every awful, terrible thing that's happening across the entire world at every moment is not natural as a human being to handle that, because we never had to in the past. And so it's actually unfair to put it all on ourselves that, we have to like, oh, I have to be really, really careful when when I'm online. It's all on me. It's like, oh, actually, no, probably some of it is going to have to be like, I just need to opt out enough to make sure that I'm not just defaulting into that inadvertent comparison, as you said, because that's just what's going to happen when you're online and you see, 30 different people posting their happiest moments or their thoughts or whatever it is.
Their year in review, the reel in review of all the awesome
Yeah.
things.
Right. Here's the amazing beach I was just on, and I
Yeah.
just got promoted, and
Right. Like, oh man, I just
yeah.
went to Great Wolf Lodge. You went to Paris.
Kids love Great Wolf Lodge. They probably had more
They do,
fun.
eh? what advice do you give to others that maybe you don't follow very well yourself?
Oh, I love that question. Oh my God. So much. So much. I'm gonna say that I'm gonna go to with for me, the most important one. The most important one in terms of, like, from my standpoint, inner peace and happiness and fulfillment, which is, in truth, nothing on the outside can ever actually satisfy. Like, it is 100% your relationship to the world. It's an inner job entirely that is the path to inner freedom. I still, despite, decades, a couple decades now of integrating that sort of awakening and aha moment that first hit me in my early 20s, I still slip into it, right? I still think, oh, well, but, I feel better when, like, if I can just get through this. And it's on every level, like I'm going through a physical thing right now that's super, like, it sucks. And I just think, oh my God, like, if I can just get to the end of this, I'll feel so much better. And it's like, yeah, but you won't, like, you'll still slip back into, whatever. There'll be the next thing that replaces that slot as the problem of the day. So I'm constantly, I'll say, like, sharing that, teaching it, but it's also because that's like a constant reminder that I need myself to focus on, gratitude and not having certain expectations and non-attachment to the way things are happening, and still full engagement with life, and still it's okay to have preferences and desires and all that, but at the same time to know that, like, everything changes and there's nothing really firm to hold on to. And if you can just actually flow with life and be 100% here with whatever's happening, that's where it's at, Mike.
What you just said about flowing with, like, the way, like, going with the current, like, instead of against the current, is like something I'm, like, intentionally practicing right now. There have been certain things in my life over the last year that I have been like, I want to fix that. I don't want it to be like that. I want it to look different. I want it to be this way, not that way. And as I was talking with my therapist, and she was just like, Erica, practice just going with the current. She goes, because on the other side of that, she's like, I have a feeling like where you land, where it drops you, is going to be so beautiful. So, like, stop trying to fight what you want, what you thought your life was going to look like. And that happens a lot, right? Like, nobody gets married with the intention of divorce. Like, I wasn't planning to be a single mom. But man, there's been so many beautiful things that has taught me, and it was the right decision for my family. On the flip side of that, like, the beauty in it is, like, seeing, like, how much I can do, like, on my own, and, like, how I have shown up for my kids. And so surrendering to the flow is something that it's very hard to do, but once you start to do it, it's so freeing. And I talk about, for so for so long, it's definitely the last couple of years, I would go into my therapy sessions, and my therapist would talk about self-love, and I'm like, I do get, like, if someone tells me one more time to love myself more, I'm gonna go crazy. I was like, what does it even mean? And when I tell you, I Googled, like, I was like, I'm gonna Google what self-love is, because I need to know more specifically what to do. And then one day it hit me, and I was like, self-love is a series of choices you make on a daily basis that leads you to the life you want to have. So the self-love today is in the fact that, like, I need some time to rest because, I'm on all weekend with, like, my kids. Or, like, the self-love is, like, saying no to that invite because you need a break. Or the self-love is, like, not choosing to go out with someone who doesn't to date someone who doesn't align with your values, even though they seem great. The harder decision is to not just go with it, but to stand by, like, your values, vision, and lifestyle. To me, I finally got it. I was like, it's a series of choices that gets you to your flow, that gets you to where you want to be. And once I realized that, I've shown up like way better for myself.
Has there been a perspective shift in your life that has created big, meaningful, positive change?
So I have two children, and one of my kids is neurodiverse and learns in like a very different way than other kids. And I don't ever talk publicly like about what his specific diagnosis is because I feel like that's his story to tell. When I began this journey with him, I had to very quickly recognize that the typical path of like childhood and education and like was going to look different. I had to get really comfortable with this idea, as I've coined it, of living in the gray. Because I'm like a very black and white person. I'm like, tell me what is going to happen, right? Like I want to
Yeah.
know that like in 10 years, like this is exactly what's going to happen. You know, when you have a life event that's like kind of atypical than like how you envision your child growing up or your life going, it kind of humbles you. And what I mean about living in the gray is being okay with not knowing what the outcome is going to be. Like, I know, like, my son is going to be successful and he will be fine. And, like, whatever fine looks like, right? Like, it's going to be fine. If it's not fine, like, we're going to deal with it. But, like, it's being okay with not knowing exactly how what that looks like on the back end of it. And I've had to really be okay with uncertainty, like since that has, you know, since that moment in my life, of you know, of just living in the present. Like it's very easy to dwell in the past and worry about the future. And so what it's forced me to do is be like right now, like things are great. Like right now, I'm enjoying my 8-year-old boy. I'm not going to let what I think the world's going to treat him like in 20 years like ruin my time with him right now because like this is I want he's such a cool kid and this is who I want to remember this. But that as a parent, as you know, and that carries over to you can use
Yeah.
that living in the gray notion for younger people who are like, am I going to get married? Am I going to be successful in my job? Like, am what ifs? Like, what if this happens
Yeah.
or what? And it could get so overwhelming and make you so anxious to not know the outcome of something. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And so, you know, I used to be like mad that my son had a harder time navigating his world than other kids. And now I'm like, wow, you know, he has taught us all so much and has like shifted my mindset of life of being like the gray could be a cool place if you let it be. The gray is going to force you to live in the present. And so, but you have to be okay being there.
That I love that living in the gray. That is, and it is not common for us humans to embrace uncertainty at all. Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron talks a lot about how like our entire ego structure is essentially an effort to not to grapple with the inherent groundlessness of life. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen a minute from now. And that's a profoundly unsettling experience to the part of us that wants to control and the part of us that wants to know. And yet, if you can find that, you know, like surf that wave and find that middle point of living in the gray, as you said, that again, like that is a ticket to a way, way richer life. That's a great answer. That's a great, great answer.
And you just said something that's so important. It's letting go of control because, I was going into these doctors' offices and being like, tell me like the outcome, tell me that, the answers were all very much like, well, time will tell, you're doing all the right things. When I finally just accepted, the situation for what it is and found the beauty in like what it is and let go of the control, like it was freeing and and it was better for all of us. But you gotta live in the gray. That's my slogan.
That feels like a really good place to land. I feel like I don't want to mess it up.
That's my favorite part of our talk today.